We're here today to talk about Elvenking, new record, Reader of the Runes, Luna, part three of the trilogy coming out April 11th on Reaper Entertainment. Dude, it's been a long time since I've seen you last. How's things been since?
Yeah, it's almost a year now, right?
Yeah,
It's
last time I saw you was in Toronto with Ailstorm and someone else.
yeah,
Can't
exactly.
but I can't
Yeah.
remember who else it was. And it was a great show. I had just seen you guys at Prague Power a few months earlier, so yeah, it was a great show, and I'm sure it was a great tour for you guys.
Oh, yes, it was. It was definitely a great experience. All that North American tour that we made, and since then, well, it's been a great time. I mean, we've been able to finally sign a new deal after we left AFM Records. So we had the chance to, during the summer to sign with Reaper Entertainment and start this journey that is leading us to the release of the new album. And we've been on tour here in Europe with the Pagan Fest, so with Ailstorm and Seferum, Tyr and Heidevolk. So it's been a great 5 weeks around Europe. So yeah, it's been a great time for us.
You guys are busy. So let's talk about this record, but let's look a little bit at the trilogy. When you look back at all three records, which one was the most challenging?
Ooh, tough question. Probably the first one was the most challenging because we didn't have any reference. We just started with this story from scratch, and we never made a concept album before. So this was I mean, we made a like a theme-driven album with the Scythe back in 2007, but a real concept album with the story and so on, no, we never did that. So probably that was the most difficult one to set up and really understand how we could develop the story in the course of an album, um, while still keeping it like a regular album, not with a lot of intros and instrumentals and so on, so forth. So, um, yeah, that was probably the most challenging. And for part two and part three, we had all the time during the pandemic, which unfortunately was not a great situation, but it gave us all the time to, because we had to stop all our live activities and all of the other things that we usually do. So we had all the time to write all of the material for part two and part three together, and all the lyrics, all the music, all the pre-productions, and we had all the time to really think a lot about, how to split the songs, give the right, the right mood to each song with the right lyrics. So that was a big work, but we had all the time to do it and do it in a relaxed frame of time. Yeah, so basically, probably is the Divination album was a bit more challenging.
Are you done for a while now with Concept Records?
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. I mean, we didn't expect to when we decided that we had a good idea for a concept album. We weren't expecting to go with three albums. I mean, there was like a hint that the story couldn't fit just one album, but three albums? No, we didn't have a clue about that. But then, so it happened, and this means that we've been doing this for about 6 years. So we've been talking about this story and writing notes and lyrics and testing the story again and again in order for it to be consistent and be credible, So it's 6 years that we've been doing this, and now it's done. We're really excited to be able to make a new album that doesn't have all these references. That there is not a predefined uh, threat, where we have to walk upon. It's just freedom from now on. So that's really exciting. It's really thrilling.
Did you guys approach all three records from a creative standpoint the same way, or did you guys change some things along the way because you learned that some things needed to be changed, or maybe because you didn't want the process to become repetitive for you?
Well, the thing that we don't want the path to be repetitive is something that we always keep in mind as a band. So that's definitely one of the rules of our band for Elvenking. But the approach that the we had in the songwriting was basically the same throughout all of the trilogy. The things that changed are sometimes where some of the tones of the music that were heavily influenced by the lyrics. So because of that, I think that we tried some different approach with some riffing, with some maybe darker tone, especially in chapter number two in Rapture, but also in this new one, we have songs that are really tragic and really dark and melancholic, and probably if we didn't have the right lyrics for this, we probably wouldn't have gone so far, stretching a little bit the boundaries of our soundscape. But so we did, and I'm really happy that we did, because you know, we have a million influences in metal, especially both from the melodic world, but also a lot of influences from extreme metal, from melodic death metal, old school death metal, black metal, and all those are part of us. And sometimes when it comes to, the songwriting, it's we used to be a little bit uh, you know, we try to be a bit careful with that. When you're songwriting, you have all these influences and all these ideas, and sometimes you are like you put them all together, and maybe you come up with a song that's too extreme, that's too heavy, and all these things. We did that in the past with the Scythe or with the Red Silent Tides. We made albums that were really far from the boundaries of the Elvenking sound, and we don't want to repeat that. But with this trilogy, with these three albums, I think that we stretched a little bit the boundaries, and they sound well. I think that it was a good way to approach songwriting. So probably we will keep on doing that also in the future.
You mentioned the impact that the lyrics had on the sound, and I want to ask you this because you also said that when you guys were doing the first record, you didn't know if it was going to be three records at the time. You thought maybe okay, it doesn't fit into one. So when it comes to the lyrics, did you start writing kind of the storyline in the lyrics from that point on, or have you waited for each record to write the lyrics for that chapter of the trilogy?
Well, with part one, we just wrote the lyrics of that part, and because we knew we it was clear how the first part of the story was going, and it that was clear. The rest of the story, we had some ideas, but it wasn't fixed yet. It wasn't defined. So yeah, that's what we did. But as I said, when we were about to write the second album, and we suddenly had this stop with the pandemic, we took the chance and started writing all the lyrics of both parts. And that was really helpful because it gave us the chance to really develop all the story, and not committing mistakes in the development of especially the relations of all these characters, because we have like 10 characters living in this story, and they are all linked with pretty intricate and thick lines. I love to say so. It would have been easy to commit mistakes in that development. So that was easier when we had the chance to write all the lyrics of part two and part three together.
When I heard part two compared to part one, I thought part two was super dark. It was a very dark record. And I thought, okay, for part three, they're gonna lighten up the mood a little bit and make it a more brighter record. So when I was listening to part three, Luna, it is a brighter record to a certain extent, but there's still quite a bit of darkness in it. Did that kind of just develop that way, or you kind of saw that coming? That darkness of record two was going to kind of linger into record three.
Well, at first it was because of the story. It was because of of how the story goes in this third chapter. And of course, I think that the having having written the both albums together, I think that the style pretty you can notice that it was written in one big long songwriting session. So I think that's also for that reason that we can hear echoes of Rapture also in Luna. But this album has basically two souls because of the story, and the first is, as you said, a more melodic, more lighthearted part of it, side of it, because we go into the past of these characters when they all were younger. They were basically kids, and they didn't have all of the issues of adulthood, So also with the music, we wanted to underline that feeling, and that's where we get to know how all these characters are linked together. But then we have another soul to this album, and it is the darker, the most melancholic and sad, because we discover the real reason, the real event that started all that happens in this trilogy, and it's a big, sad, and painful moment in the story of these characters, and that's underlined by slower songs, songs that are darker, a bit heavier, and also a bit doomy sometimes. That's a it was our way to go in that direction and underline that part of the story.
For me, one of those songs is The Weeping. I absolutely love that track. I think it's a great track, super powerful. Love the sound, love the vocals. Was this last chapter different for you when it came to the vocal performance?
It was a bit, yeah. It was because on one side, it was great to like interpret some of these tones, some of these feelings that are really sad, are really go in depth in terms of sadness and melancholy, and that's a great thing when it comes to interpret. And as a singer, that's what I like the most. I mean, I call myself more on uh, uh, like an interpreter more than more than a singer. If you get what I mean. Um, but also the most melodic songs of these uh they have a more like clean approach with the vocals because we wanted to underline also that aspect. And I think that we went a bit back to how we used to do things in our early days, like in our debut album Heathen Wheel, where I had a very clean voice. I was very young, and it was cool to kind of reconnect with that and try that kind of approach with these songs like Gone Epoch or Luna. They have super clean vocals, which is something that I don't do since I don't know some years. And but I tried to get back in contact with that kind of singing, and it was interesting, and I think that it worked pretty well.
You also had Matthias Lilmans of Fintroll on the track Storm Carrier. How did that collaboration come about? And why him?
Well, it was pretty easy. I mean, we contacted him some years ago because we knew that we wanted that kind of vocals in that song, and we were still in the pre-production phases. And I mean, we thought about him because we thought he was the right singer. We love his voice, we love what he does with Fincho, but also his other projects like And Oceans or the other many bands he is singing with, and I think he's a very great and powerful singer when it comes to the growling and the screams. So yeah, we just contacted him, and it was happy to do it. So I think that he really gave that. power to that track, evil power.
Definitely, definitely. It works really well. It's a great, I'm gonna go as far as to say it's a great duet because you guys really
Yeah.
feed off of one another in that song, creating a very interesting dynamic within that track. Is there someone else out there that you would love to collaborate with on a future Elven King song?
Well, there could be many that I could mention, but it has to be the right thing for the right singer. I mean, we collaborated with some other singers in the past, like John Oliva on a couple of tracks on the Era album. Then we had Schmier from Destruction because we wanted a very harsh and like thrash metal vocals on the Winter Wake. And yeah, I mean, I could name any of my favorite singers, but it just has to be the right spot for the right moment. So who knows? Let's see.
There's always another record in the future. We never know. I know I asked you about concept records if you're done with it, but are you done with trilogies?
Yeah, definitely.
Never
With
again.
trilogy, never again. Exactly. I mean, it was a great thing. It was a great journey, but it was so, uh, you know, uh, energy and time consuming. And with part one was thrilling because we didn't know where we were going to. But with part two and part three, it was still great, but it was like, as I said, you knew where you had to go. So we didn't have that kind of feeling that when you start songwriting an album, for me, it's like being in a complete dark room, you know, where you don't know what will happen, and you need something to ignite a little light, a little fire that starts making you think and catch ideas and create ideas. And that is like a creative process that I really love. But with the trilogy, at a certain point, it was like, okay, we already know what we have to do here. So there was that kind of mystery was missing. It was good and it was a great experience, but yeah, now we need that mystery back in our songwriting.
And with the album coming out April 11th, the question that I have for you, the last question I have for you is, what are your plans? I know you did that Big and Fest tour leading up to the record. Are you guys planning on hitting the road again following the album release?
Well, we'll have some festivals in Europe, like the Summer Breeze, Leyendas de Rock, Metal Fest in the Czech Republic, and some others. So that's going to be our summer. To tell you the truth, I think that we'll be touring next year for sure. But for this year, probably there will be some Japan in the fall, some small tours maybe. But yeah, we'll definitely do something because we also just signed a deal with a booking agency for North America, so there will be definitely something going on in 2026 probably. So yeah.
That's exciting. I don't know if I told you last time I saw you, but you guys were my favorite band on day one of Prog Power.
Wow.
And I don't think I
Thank
was
you.
alone because so many people came to see you guys. I was interviewing people outside of the venue before the show, and when you asked them who they were there to see, Elven King, Elven King, Elven King. And then when you guys
Thank
played in Toronto with Ailstorm, sold out show, and you guys had so many people there for you, it was there's such a huge following of the band in North America, and it continues to grow. And I know these records are very demanding, but they are so good that I think you're gonna definitely gain even more momentum with the band as you go forward. But no
Well,
more
thank you so
trilogy.
much. No, no. Well, one thing about it, what you said, thank you so much for what you said. It's great to know these things, but it was mind-blowing what we saw in North America, in the States, and in Canada. It was our first extensive tour, and it was incredible to see all that people coming for us. I mean, we were supporting Ailstorm, but there was a lot of people coming for us, and a lot of people saying like they were waiting for years and years to finally catch Elvenking live. So that was great, really great, and yeah, it will definitely lead to more touring and a bigger presence for us in North America. But as you were saying about no more trilogies, yes, definitely no more trilogies. But the thing that we wanted to keep with this trilogy is, as I said, to still, I mean, we had this story and we had all the time to develop it into three albums. But the important thing for us was to still have albums that had the like a normal balance, and with this I mean like a regular album that you can listen from start to finish without being tired, without being stressed by this story, because of course there were some albums in history that were a bit overdoing it, like a lot of intros, a lot of short songs, and which are things that create a momentum, create a pathos, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted still to have albums that you could listen separately, one from the other, and not having to stick with the story at all costs. So um, yeah, no more trilogies, but we will be continuing like doing albums like these. So yeah,
I really like the way you guys built the record because, like you said, you can listen to all three albums independently from one another, and you can also listen to the songs independently from the album. Like if you
yeah.
listen to a track like Luna, for example, it's a great song. It doesn't matter if you listen to it on the record, off the record, the quality of the song is undeniable. So whenever you can create an album that has great individual tracks built into the concept of the record, it's the winning formula for me.
That's great. Yeah, that was our what we wanted to do, and it's great to know that yeah we were like we kind of did it in a way or another. So yeah, thank you.
And I love the sound on Luna. Great, great sound, great vocal performance. Thank you, as always. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. You having the time to speak with me about the record once again. Reader of the Runes, Luna, part three of the trilogy coming out April 11th on Reaper Entertainment. I'll have a link in the description of the video for people to go get the record. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. It's always a great pleasure, Pedro. Thank you.
Take care.